Good evening, Canisius College. Tonight we'll be looking into new developments that may be coming to campus. First, we'll be discussing a potential initiative to make campus tobacco-free, and later we'll take a look at dining on campus. I'm your host, Claire Durgel, and this is Griffin Insiders. Tonight I'm joined once again by Griffin editors Kevin Daly and Aiden Ryan and USA VP Anthony Croze. Thank you guys so much for being here again.
Of course.
Claire, I'm always so pleased to join you, especially on this auspicious day, fresh back from your cameo in Tangled.
Wow, it's
Her
great to be
hair
back.
is looking just radiant today.
Let down your long hair.
That I might climb up to Lions for, to our lofty studio.
Wow, I don't know how to respond to that, so we're going to dive into our first topic. First up is an initiative to be headed by newly elected USA President John Solak. While smoking on campus has not been too prevalent, Solak may try to eradicate tobacco use from school grounds. Take a look at this video.
What made you want to revisit the smoking
policy? It was crazy. It all started just in a classroom. It was immunochemistry, and my professor, who's also a professor of immunobiology at at Georgetown Medical School, he described his experience as a graduate student and dissecting lymph nodes and finding tar from smoke inside the lymph nodes. And then he brought up that one of his former students was on student government and had maybe tried some attempt, but it had, the flame had kind of gone out in that movement. And so I talked to him after and said, this is crazy. And, he described his brother-in-law dying of lung cancer and what a slow and awful and agonizing experience that is. And that just motivated me to really find a way to fix the issue that we have right now. So if you look at the official student handbook, there it is I believe a state law that you have to be 20 feet away from all entrances when you're smoking. But in the student handbook, all it says is that you can't be inside a building when you smoke. And the problem that we've experienced with that is really the secondhand smoke. So like if someone's right in front of the library, well, a bunch of people are moving, especially in the morning, that secondhand smoke exposure does have a measurable impact and has been linked to diseases such as pneumonia. And so my focus is to say, we know smoking has these negative impacts. We want to mitigate the effects of secondhand smoke. We want to educate people who do have a free choice to smoke that what they're doing has a lot more impacts than maybe just, people heard, okay, lung cancer, yeah. But if you ask any doctor, it affects every single system of the body. And as an anatomy and physiology tutor, I tell the students, I cringe, if I see one of my students smoking, because I volunteer at an operating room, and if they're a smoker, they have, they have trouble recovering from surgery, they have more phlegm in their throat, and all this, so many health effects. And I feel like most students are aware that it has negative impacts, but not that it's so far-reaching. So secondhand smoke, educate those who do make their choice, and also to provide an example of how things should be done in a student government. Get at the opinions of the whole student body, and really focus on why we're doing it. So if we were to just all of a sudden in one day change from our policy right now to a no smoke at all campus, that just it vilifies the smokers in a way that I think really raises up some very unpleasing feelings between the students who do smoke and the school themselves. So the focus is not on just making a law, making a regulation, but to do something that impacts the students, because that's the focus on why we do it. So really the focus is going to be on compliance, not just changing the policy. And that is really what I want to focus on and why I ran, because I think that I can focus on the effect of what we do, the why, and that all ties together so nicely. Yeah.
Does the changes just affect smoking tobacco or all types of tobacco?
That is one component that we looked at. So we have the option of becoming just a smoke-free campus or tobacco-free. I think that decision is heavily based off of the survey. That being said, I think that given how difficult it is to regulate forms such as chewing tobacco, it'll definitely be difficult. So my purpose is really to make sure if you're using tobacco products, you're at least educated, and that we're not negatively impacting people who choose not to smoke. So it's unclear at the moment whether we should be completely tobacco-free or just smoke-free. But I think our focus is on the secondhand smoke.
And then moving.
Now that's, I think we can all agree, a really interesting first initiative for a new president to take. Aiden, what's your opinion on this?
You know, I don't really have strong feelings on it. I did talk with John Solek this morning, though. He presented to the Faculty Student Liaison Committee of the Faculty Senate and shared a lot of what he mentioned in that video. I think the one thing to keep in mind is that we're not looking at anything that's going to happen right away. I think he's thinking in terms of phases. He wants to get student input, and he said that the earliest we'd see any new rules in effect would probably be fall 2015. So he's not going to do it too quickly. But I guess there are so many questions, and most of them have to do with where we stop. Do we I guess, offer benches somewhere for smokers or a shelter? Are we going to, and this is one of the biggest questions, get rid of just smoking or all tobacco? And I believe John mentioned that he's talked with some activists statewide and nationwide who say that if you ban just smoking, it's almost like pushing people into other forms like chewing tobacco. Now, I question this.
Right. And we talked about this during the video. We wondered if that wasn't an imaginative leap on the part of these activists. Now, it's my understanding that John is also working with the Buffalo Niagara Tobacco-Free Coalition in consultation with this project. Another question that still looms large is that of enforcement. There's been a lot of discussion as to whether or not RAs should be responsible for enforcing the smoking policy. Right now, it's supposed to be public safety officers, and smokers are supposed to stay 20 feet away from, I know for sure residence halls. I'm not sure about academic buildings, but there's been some discussion about whether the smoke policy will be enforced by RAs as opposed to, say, public safety officers.
Yep. The smoke policy is actually a state policy. Our handbook only says that we can't smoke indoors, and that's where it draws the line. But because of state law, you have to stay away 20 feet away from windows and doors, and that's all buildings. I'm an RA, and last winter, not this winter, but a year ago, all the RAs were asked to start enforcing this, and I believe it was assumed that we were enforcing it, but to step it up. And I think I can speak for most of us when I say I don't think anybody ever stopped a smoker in January or February in those dead, cold, cruel months who was standing at the door, because I think for most of us, it's just not that big of a concern. And you feel worse for the person, and you don't care.
Well, do you get many people outside smoking? I feel like when I'm on campus, I don't see too many people around doing that.
That's the interesting question. Like, who, in terms of demographics, are the smokers? We've talked about this. Veterans, I would imagine. Probably some of the older professors. I've noticed there's a prevalence of smoking among exchange students, but
Certainly.
It seems that, generally speaking, there is not a significant, regularly smoking population on this campus.
I think the e-cigs are much more popular, and then chewing tobacco, and that's, I mean, I've seen that in the library, I've seen it in the classroom. Do you think students are going to get on board with this? What do you think, Anthony?
Well, we've seen this come up a couple times, and last year, actually, when Aiden mentioned that it was brought up to the RAs, that was largely started from the Senate and their push once again last year to try and eradicate smoking.
I'm sorry we failed you.
So here we are again, and it's cool to see that President-elect Solak is going to take it to the next level. But the e-cig question, I think, is going to large loom when it comes to what do we actually do with this? Because then you can say, well, where does the e-cig fall? Does it fall within the regular tobacco policy and chewing tobacco policy, or is there going to have to be something specific? Because I can immediately think of walking by the commuter lounge and you see someone in there with the e-cig. And does that fall within it or not?
I think the question is going to be, right now John is polling student opinion, but what he's going to have to do for the e-cigs is do a sort of literature review, because the effects of e-cigarettes are less well known. I know there are studies out now, but it's all very new because the popularity was so quick and so sudden. Especially, in this area and with our demographic age group.
I guess as sort of an armchair sociologist, I've noticed that they are really habit-forming. At least among the people I know who smoke them regularly, there's almost like this cult-like obsession with the e-cig, and they all talk about how great vaping is. and how they'll structure their schedules around when they will vape. You know what? Idea for the marketing people. Let's get rid of e-cigs, and then we'll pitch it to prospective students, because I think that could be a big draw.
I guess one question is, are there deleterious health effects of secondhand vape? And I'm not sure, really.
Right.
I guess I'll have to do some research.
I'm sure we could all agree that it just looks aesthetically foolish, but whether or not there's a public health risk, I think is a little up in the air.
You know, I was just talking with Dr. Mick Cochran in the English department, who's a novelist, and we were both bemoaning the loss of cigarettes in general as a prop. You know, in film, particularly film noir, but also in books, using cigarettes to space out your dialogue and have people, make these sort of stylized gestures.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do it as much anymore because fewer people smoke, and that's a real loss for at least we artists.
If Tim Hortons wanted to provide a smoking area, that'd be, I think, on point. Because there's nothing like a smoke with a good black coffee.
Well, I do think this is interesting because it's a great step in the whole healthier Canisius campus. If you're looking towards the fitness center and you bundle that in with a new anti-smoking, anti-tobacco policy, that's really taking Canisius to a different level of the whole health-conscious choices.
It is.
And then all the new food choices, of course, and the new science building.
You pair that with the work that Marissa Verdi is doing with her sustainability committee, so there clearly is, and it's a student-led movement towards a healthier, more environmentally friendly attitude here on campus.
I did just read a study the other day, this was done up in Toronto, that found that 2 hours after eating a breakfast sandwich, like Tim Hortons, the whatever the McDonald's one is, your arteries begin to clog, and that is even true for people of our age demographic. So seeing the number of people in that line, I know I'm there most days of the week. I think about that all the time now, like I'm slowly killing myself.
But you don't
with
stop
Griff
eating
bucks.
it. You don't stop eating it.
That's all I have, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the time we have for this segment, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be back with more Griffin Insiders.
There was one day that we had just done the cardiovascular unit, in class that day. And then right after class, I went over to the Vascular Institute, volunteered, put the scrubs on. And one of the doctors asked me if I wanted to see an open heart surgery. And so I said, yeah, really? Sure.
I came into Canisius as obviously as a freshman, not really sure what I wanted to do. I ended up taking a digital media arts class, and that really just kind of jump-started, my career.
And I think being where we are in the city and in the world with the medical campus that we have here is really an opportunity that I wouldn't have anywhere else.
It's more than just academics. Meet different people. Go out and do things. There's so much more to college. It's an experience.
I instantly fell in love with doing video work, graphic design. I started pursuing more and more opportunities in the school, whether it was doing admissions videos on the sides. I did a couple videos for alumni relations, the president of the college, and then I actually got noticed last year, and they sent me over to the Philippines to create a feature-length documentary.
I lived with a host family while I took classes in Spanish with Spanish professors at the University of Oviedo, and I was a Spaniard for a semester, and it was the best decision I made as a college student.
Tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
With dining options being fairly limited on campus, everyone is looking forward to visits from Lloyd's Taco Truck. Griffin Insider Amanda Gaberzak sat down with the owner, Peter Cimino, to discuss the possibility of getting one of these trucks to stay on the campus.
How long has Lloyd's been around?
About 3.5 years.
What made you decide to get started with it?
It was just a vision that I had. I'd tried many businesses before, and this was sort of the one that I felt was right in terms of timing and where I was in my life, and gave me the greatest chance to make a substantial impact here locally, because there was no other food trucks. We were the first food truck.
What made you decide on tacos?
Tacos, I mean, it's everyone's favorite food. I mean, we have childhood memories about Taco Day, we always looked forward to it, and for us it's really just a vessel. So it allows us to be creative with what we put in it, whether it's fried chicken or, fried calamari. I mean, it could be anything. We have our traditional or more basic, beef, pork, chicken, black bean. We carry those every day, but it was really just an opportunity for us to have a little bit more of a fusion. It's Southern California inspiration, so there's cabbage and traditional corn tortillas.
Where did you come up with the name Lloyd's?
Lloyd, I have to give all the credit to my sister. I'm not Lloyd, and neither is my partner Chris. We wanted something that was totally unique and off the wall, and it would allow us to build a brand around. And she basically threw the list out that I had and said, where's Lloyd, and kind of akin to where's Waldo.
Okay. And who's the biggest role model that you've had?
Oh my goodness, role model. Geez, I guess closest to me role model wise would be my father, just because he's the hardest working guy I know, and instilled a lot of values that have helped me become successful, especially during challenging times. That's probably my local role model. And then there are many others, whether it's authors of books or sports heroes and different types of people that I model myself after in one way or another.
You said that you were planning on bringing a food truck to Canisius?
I'd love to bring a food truck to Canisius. As some of you guys probably know, we're here for Springfest. We've been here for a couple other one-off events. And the unique position that we're in right now is we have a truck at Buff State, and Chartwell's is the owner of that contract, and Chartwell's also owns the contract here at this school, and they've expressed interest in working with other colleges. So this is my 1A, and I want to do everything I can to get a truck here. I've inquired about it before, didn't get very far. Now I know why, because everyone needs to take their cut. So I'm hoping for fall. I have a tendency to move fast, so maybe spring is more realistic, but I've even thought about the idea of spreading it out. Maybe we're at Buff State a few days, and then we're at Canisius for a couple days. So we'll see what happens, but stay tuned.
What advice do you have for young people that are interested in starting their own business or just branching out in their own lives and trying something new?
I'd say just do what you want to do. I mean, it doesn't have to be business. Creativity comes in all different forms, whether it's music or painting or even accounting in some crazy sense. But following your own passion and being genuine and being authentic will serve you better than trying to be something that you're not. And letting anyone else tell you what you should do is probably a big mistake, because at the end of the day you have to answer to yourself. So and do it now while most of you probably can. I mean, you can afford to experiment and make mistakes and do sorts of crazy things. So that would be my advice.
Okay.
And don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up.
While that video played, the Griffin Insiders panel retired into the war room, and we decided to bring back Operation Mongoose, the famous plot to assassinate Fidel Castro. We are now going to use a tampered and modified e-cigarette to assassinate Vladimir Putin. Back to you, Claire.
I apologize, but we're going to talk about that video because that's probably what you want to hear about in that Operation Mongoose.
I want to hear about Operation Mongoose.
Well, maybe
anybody who has taken a class with Dr. John DeChico, PhD in inane knowledge about communism, knows all about Operation Mongoose.
you can check that episode on next week's Griffin Insiders. But for today, Aiden, I'm going to ask you something really interesting that he said was that everyone needs their cut. What do you think that he meant by that?
Oh, yes.
Pete Semino should write for the Griffin.
A viewer's ears perked up at that, I'm sure. I'm sure he's talking about the Chartwell's contract, which is up for negotiation. Chartwell's gets the first crack at everything here. Catering, you can't bring water to an event unless it's in the bottles. You can't bring pitchers water to an event without going through Chartwell's and probably renting their tablecloths too. I mean, they do a great job. They have excellent food and excellent top-notch staff. But I'm wondering why can't Pete Semino just park the truck on Hughes?
Yeah, you know, he does seem eager, and again, I liked so much of what he said, but he does sort of seem eager to cast aspersions on those here at the college, and there's nothing that's stopping him from parking on Loring or parking on Eastwood in close proximity to the heart of the campus and getting what would no doubt be a lot of business.
Although, good luck finding a spot.
Right, that's
True
very
enough.
true. I mean, I would like to know more exactly what he meant about bringing a Lloyd's on campus. So, you know, he already talked about sending one to Buff State. So is he thinking about doing some sort of rotation where it's on campus, specifically such in Frisch Circle, you know, once or twice a week?
It sounded like that.
I think that'd be a great opportunity.
Getting to Frisch Circle might be the problem with, you know, infringing, I suppose, on Chartwell's territory.
Right.
But again, if he was anywhere off campus, if he was on any of the side streets.
By Delavan and the CAC, get everyone after they work out.
I would look forward to this, I have to say. If I knew that Lloyd's was going to be on campus every Tuesday, I'm there.
Well,
can't compete with Quesadilla Tuesday, of course.
That's very true.
The only thing better would be if you could use your Griff Bucks there.
I dare to dream.
Golden choice.
Golden choice, baby.
Anthony, I'm going to ask you a question. A lot of clubs on campus actually sponsor events that bring in Lloyd's, and it's always cheap. Last week we had one night on Tuesday, and it was only $1. Turnout of these have always been great, have they not?
Yeah, for the most part, whenever Lloyd's is on campus, everyone shows up. I think it is largely to the support that we have as Canisius students towards one of our alumni. But I know this one was the Can Do Society, and they brought in Lloyd's to show off Pete Semino, as well as then, of course, get a little bit of food afterwards. Who doesn't want some Lloyd's?
You know, I really do feel bad for these food truck guys. They went through a similar situation out in Amherst last year. Dr. Barry Weinstein, a guy I personally admire, town supervisor in Amherst, led a coalition on the town board to ban all food trucks within the town of Amherst and its jurisdictions. So, you know, these guys are really getting pinched out there, and I feel bad because they push a great product with great customer service.
You know, I've always said there is nothing more recalcitrant and reactionary than a resident of Amherst.
That's absolutely right. Which is why that's why they put Tony Walker there.
Well, you know, then the question is, what if you can come up with some sort, especially thinking in the town of Amherst, you come up with a location that is specifically the food truck location. So it's a specific spot, and food trucks can vie for that location once a week.
See, and you know what irritated me especially about Weinstein is that, you know, Weinstein's a good Republican, and we Republicans love market competition, and setting up a monopoly for, you know, property tax paid restaurants is just obscene, especially when you're closing off the market to a product that people want. But, you know, at any rate, I think we are all in agreement that we'd like to see a lot more of this at the college.
Well, during the elections this year, one of the students ran on the promise of bringing something Chipotle-esque to campus. Do you think this was like a little foreshadowing?
You mean all of the candidates?
Yes.
Pardon?
I said you mean all of the candidates
It started off
ran
as
on
one,
that
it
platform.
slowly progressed to all. But that is in part because of the Chartwell's contract being up. Do you think that this is what they were talking about, or is he just seeing an opportunity and kind of sliding in?
I don't know what the negotiations consist of. However, what I do know is that has been something that many students have been pushing for a long time, and it's been something we've been fairly vocal about, that we always like to have our Mexican-style food and to have somewhere on campus that we can go to. It only makes sense. I mean, yes, we have all these healthy locations, but why not put a Mexican place? I think that would rival Iggy's for the late-night food vending.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. That's all the time that we have today for Griffin Insiders. I'm Claire Dirgel, joined again by
Kevin Daly.
Aiden Ryan.
And Anthony Croze.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week.